Is the price of gold being kept artificially high? In 1840, there was 10,000 tons of gold production. Today, we're touching almost 200,000 tons. But the world population around the same time was a little over a billion, and we're about to touch 8 billion. So gold production has increased almost 20 times, but the world population has only increased 7 times. Out of the 200,012 tons of gold that have been mined throughout history, 2/3 of that has been mined since 1950, so we have been pulling a lot of it out of the ground. So why on earth has the price of gold increased from $200 an ounce to $2,200 since 1998? All right, it's not that simple. Even though we are mining more gold, the easy gold has already been mined. So now miners have to dig deeper and spend a lot more money to access actual quality gold reserves. While the world population hasn't grown in proportion to the production of gold, the wealth of the world has by far skyrocketed past it. In 1960 alone, the GDP per capita of the world was about $500. Right now, that number is about $13,000, which means from 1960 to today, the average income per person all over the entire world has increased by 26 times. Yeah, nobody really talks about how wealthy the world has actually become over the past 64 years. Anyway, you could see this across all tax brackets. As people become wealthier, they tend to buy gold. 47% of all gold consumed is in the jewelry industry. 37% is bullion, like those bricks that central banks keep, coins and metals. Believe it or not, 6% electronics, and then 1% is other. Remember something. People love jewelry since the beginning of time. And as the amount of people increase to almost 8 billion and they are coming into wealth, don't you think they're going to want to show it off? In 2019, revenue of the jewelry industry was about $281 billion. And then, of course, COVID destroyed a lot of that. But since 2022, we have recovered. It's gone higher than the previous peak. And it looks like it's going to keep going that way until 2028, most likely for as long as time exists. Now, this 37% bullion is mostly held by wealthy people and, of course, central banks. Global central banks have been buying the most gold since the United States abandoned the gold standard in 1971. Top gold buyer in 2022 was the Central Bank of Turkey, followed by Uzbekistan, India, and Qatar. If you're not sure why, it's because gold is often seen as a hedge against inflation. And the United States holds the most of it in their reserves, about 8,100 tons, followed at a distant second by Germany, then Italy, France, Russia, and then China. And that's another thing. Russia, China, and India have been heavily stockpiling gold over the past 20 years. India has recently become one of the wealthier countries, and they are a bit newer into this gold purchasing craze. Remember, India has the same population as China, and while their GDP per capita is not as high, that figure is changing year by year. Fun fact, China is the world's largest producer of gold, followed by Russia, then Australia, Canada, and believe it or not, America is the world's 5th largest producer of gold. Now, I want to go back to the central banks. Let's just look at their average annual purchases since 2010. 2010 to 2013, there was a lot more economic uncertainty because it was following the Great Recession. As the economy began to improve, you could see that the central banks started slowing down their purchases, even though the cumulative value, of course, was constantly rising. Crazy thing was, in 2020 and 2021, when we were going through the worst of COVID, gold purchases dropped. As you could see, these bits of dip in the price of gold during that same time. And then, of course, we can't forget the realm of gold investment, like stocks, ETFs, futures, you name it. As more countries like Hungary, Mexico, Greece, Portugal, Spain, South Korea, even Taiwan, start purchasing gold as hedges against inflation and just overall investment, constant increase in the price of gold is inevitable. So gold isn't being manipulated to keep it artificially high. It's actually artificially low. And it's kept artificially low by the United States. Take a look at this chart of inflation in the 90s. As it was steadily creeping up, the price of gold was kept at this level below $400 an ounce for over a decade. Notice how inflation follows the uptick in the printing of the money supply. The increase of US dollars in circulation and, of course, inflation rising, how on earth was gold able to stay this low if it's meant to hedge against this inflation? Long story short, the Federal Reserve cooperates with the London Exchange and most likely other Western branches to constantly short gold if they have to. The fact that gold is not $3,000 an ounce yet, after we printed more money in a 3-year period than we have in the past 20 years, blows my mind as to how the Fed managed to pull this off. Especially because China, India, Russia, and a lot of other non-Western cooperative countries have been buying gold. The US wasn't supposed to have that kind of power over the price of gold anymore, but somehow they still do. And I know some people are thinking, well, the BRICS nations are going to release a gold-backed currency and that's going to replace the dollar. No. The reason why the US got off the gold standard was because foreign entities were buying billions of dollars of just US dollars, and then they were immediately exchanging those dollars for gold, which was depleting America's gold reserves, which were backing the dollar. If any major economy tries to issue a gold-backed currency, the same foreign entities would just buy that currency and clear out that country or that cooperative's gold reserves, and then we or some other investment firm would have it. And other people are saying that the BRICS nations are going to release a currency that is backed by commodities like oil, rare earth minerals, and gold. OPEC has made it clear to China that they are only going to be selling oil in US dollars, but everything else is fair game. And China no longer has the monopoly of rare earth minerals because of our discovery of the same thing in Wyoming. Estimated values of that discovery in Wyoming total about $100 billion. And if that's true, the US would be able to manipulate the value of that commodity-backed currency with ease. In summary, the price of gold is kept artificially low. Its value has been increasing because of the world population getting richer and national economies wanting to have proper hedges against inflation. Introducing a gold or commodity standard currency would just be an invitation towards a currency failure. I'm the Geo Husar, and it is torture trying to do a landscape video. Thanks for watching.